Many people may associate an employee handbook with an overwhelming amount of procedural information about an organization that is presented in a dry format. Although this may be the case for some organizations, the employee handbook can serve many beneficial functions for both the organization as well as employees. In addition to communicating policies and procedures, the employee handbook can be utilized to discuss the culture, mission, and values of the organization. In this discussion, we will review the opportunity of using the first section of the employee handbook to allow the employee to learn more about the company's culture, mission, and values. The items to include in the introduction section that we will review in this discussion may include the following: a welcome letter from the executive team or the company owner, the mission and values of the organization, a broad general overview of the handbook and the contents of the handbook, any verbiage that's specific to the organization and or the industry, and finally, the code and conduct or ethics of the organization. So let's get started. Organizations may choose to open their employee handbook with a letter from the executive team or the owner of the company to welcome the employee and set the stage around the organization. The letter can be structured in a way that welcomes new employees and acts as a document to address continuing employees as well. The letter can act as both an orientation resource for new employees and a resource for legacy employees. Included below is an attachment of additional key items to consider when writing an introduction letter to be included in a handbook, as well as a sample letter. The next item to consider including in the introduction section would be the mission and values of the organization. The introduction section of the handbook is a great place for organizations to have an opportunity to discuss the mission of the company and the values for the employees. Defining the mission and values for the organization will give employees clarity and understanding of organizational goals, as well as how the organization views the ability to achieve the goals. Including the mission and values within the handbook allows the company to directly connect the employee's role to the mission and values of the organization. The introduction can also include an overview of what will be discussed in the employee handbook. The overview can detail that the handbook is made up of policies and procedures of the organization, but they can be altered and updated by the organization at any time. An important note should be that the employees will always be informed of any changes to the handbook. The overview can instruct employees again to review the contents of the handbook and carefully ensure they comprehend each section. Express that the handbook does not act as a contract between the employer and the employee, therefore the employment is at will and can be terminated at any point by the employee or the employer. The introduction section of the handbook can include information about verbiage which is specific to the organization. Most likely, there are acronyms or verbiage that may be specific to your organization or company which employees need to be aware. An example may be whether the company titles their workers as employees or associates, and their consumers either customers or clients. There also may be verbiage or acronyms specific to your industry that employees need to be aware as well. A final item to consider including in the introduction section of the handbook is information around the code of conduct and ethics for the organization or company. The code of conduct and ethics is a guide to show employees how to be good corporate citizens and positive influences within the community you serve. The Code of Ethics for the Society of Human Resource Management can serve as an excellent example of how to structure the Code of Conduct and Ethics within an organization. Below is a link to the Code of Conduct and Ethics for the Society of Human Resource Management to review. A key point to take away from this Code of Conduct's example is to provide employees with a value strategy of how the organization expects to achieve organizational goals in a positive manner. Below are resources to support each item discussed in this section to review.